Hello, open source ambassadors, friends, colleagues. Let's turn off that music, but we will hear more about that later. First, my beloved Friday Ketchup audience, I'd like to introduce to you Joy. Joy is the newest family member here in the House of Brook. And today, my guest for the Friday Ketchup is Karien Bornheim. Hello, Karin. Welcome to the Friday Ketchup. It took 57 episodes before I was able to get you into the Friday Ketchup, but now you are here. Thank you very much for joining. And we will talk about open source in Africa this episode, won't we?
Absolutely, and I'm very honored to be part of your very famous Friday Ketchup. Thank you.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Hey, so introduce yourself. Let's go ahead.
Okay, so as you heard, my name is Karin. I'm the owner-founder of Footprint Africa Business Solutions, or FABS. And our name is quite relevant because we do work in 54 out of the 58 African countries. We don't have any offices anywhere in the world. We are a completely virtual company, so very, very well set up for these difficult COVID times. We specialize in open source solutions and open source software, and we work with many of our customers and all over Africa, multinationals, right down to the tiny corner shops, trying to get them into the open source world and trying to get them up and running and going and improving themselves. So that's what we do as FABS.
Wow, that's really cool. That's really cool. Hey, and you chose the song Scatterlings of Africa by Johnny Clegg and Savuka as the intro song, and we'll use it as the outro song as well. And I believe there's quite a story behind this song, isn't it?
No, absolutely. So, I mean, Scatterlings is all about people moving from one place to another, sometimes because they want to and sometimes because they have to. And of course, as an African, we firmly believe that all human being and human life and humans as we know them today started in Africa. And then from Africa, we migrated to Europe. And then, interestingly enough, way back, I think 13 generations back, my family then came back to Africa as part of the French Huguenots. And we are very much African. So just people moving around, and specifically in Africa, so many Africans move across the world for many reasons. I mean, some of it is because they don't have a choice, but some of it is also to try and improve their education, improve their lives. But at the moment, so many Africans are coming back again because we see the potential in Africa. We want Africa to be a shining light in the world. We don't want to be seen as being a backwards continent. Mm-hmm. And we believe that open source can definitely help us to do that.
Wow. And if you don't talk about open source, we talked about this years ago, back when South Africa, when we met. You already explained me the power of open source and what it could do for the continent. Can you explain to the Friday Ketchup audience a little bit about that?
Yeah, so being in Africa, we don't have a lot of money generally as companies. Mm-hmm. So we have to try and find ways to do things in an innovative way, in an affordable way. And the innovation that's happening within Africa is really absolutely phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Specifically when you look in the IoT space, there is so much development that happens. And Emil, you might remember we were, I think it was in Washington when we had that conversation from a guy from MIT, and he was bragging about the amazing things they're doing at MIT, and I put my hand up and I said, by the way, all this stuff is already being done in Africa. We're already using IoT to help us to improve our agriculture. We're using IoT to help us manage water and water consumption and making sure that the water is safe. We're using IoT for safety and security and for protecting the environment, for example, the rhinos.
Okay.
So there's so much going on, and it's all based on IoT. Sorry, I meant on open source and IoT.
Yeah.
So even the Internet of Things is still in the rest of the world is still something that most people talk about. In Africa, it's actually a way of life. It's something we do because we have to. All these small devices are coming out of necessity because there is nothing and we can't afford the very expensive European and American products. So we have to build our own.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even our governments are saying the way to go is definitely open source. So not to be stuck with any proprietary software, not to be stuck, to be locked in and to be forced by some of the countries to do things in a certain way. We want to do things the African way because we know what we need.
Yeah.
We don't want the world telling us you will do this or you will do that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, I was wondering, it could have been proprietary software just as well, and as long as it's cheap, or is it really important that it is open code?
It's very important that it is open, because by being open, we've got the best of what is out there. Because there are so many developers working on the software and so many people being involved, because security is critically important in Africa. And we believe that if it is open source, there are so many eyes watching what is going on, that we believe it is safer and it is more secure. And so it doesn't require so much work from our side to make sure that our environments are secure. I mean, just for example, one of the wells, the IoT devices in a well was hacked and the water was poisoned in one of the countries. Because by hacking into the IoT, they could see where all the wells were. So for us, security is not just, they're stealing our data and our money. For us, it is really a matter of life and death in many cases. So it is very, very important that we use well-tested, well-developed open source code that we can then adapt and use for our benefit.
Wow, that's really cool. Hey, and a completely different topic, as you are also very active in the collective. That's the SUSE initiative to get SUSE users and Ranger users all together. Can you say something about what the collective is for you?
I love the collective, specifically during these COVID times, because it is giving us a chance to connect with people from across the world.
Yeah.
I am definitely a citizen of the world. In my normal life, I'm traveling 3 weeks of every month.
Yeah.
I don't spend time in my house. And because of COVID, I've spent more time in my house and with my people than I have ever in my entire working history.
Yeah.
So to be able to connect with people and to be able to see what's happening in the rest of the world and just to be educated in a way to see what is out there and what is new without having to spend a huge amount of time looking for it, because we're also busy. I like the fact that it's all in one place. That it is easy. I'm sort of being fed it. I don't have to go look for it.
No.
I like that. I really like, and I also love the fun around it. I mean, for example, with the Olympics, it was such fun to take part in those competitions and to guess how many times, and sometimes to know how many times somebody's won a gold, or what their history is. I like that about it. It's not all serious, and I think that's what open source to me is about. It is fun.
Yeah.
Our lives have to be fun. What we do, yes, it must have a serious impact. Yes, it must be, serious from a business point of view, but getting there must be fun. And that's what I like about the collective.
All right, well, collective and fun. Shout out to you, Wiki, for organizing the whole thing. It's really well done. He will be. He promised to be my guest in the Friday Ketchup soon as well. So you will see him here. The man behind the collective. Hey, another question I ask my my guests as well is if you would have a podcast or a book or something that you have regarding, in this case, probably Africa and open source for the Friday Ketchup audience to consume. Do you have something?
Okay, so I'm not going, this is not really an open source podcast, but my whole mission in life is to get the world to see Africa with different eyes and in a different light. So one of the podcasts that I really like is Those Who Came Before Us, because it debunks a whole lot of myths about Africa.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, we are developing incredibly fast. We have many skyscrapers, we have traffic lights, we have tarred roads, we have, and everywhere, not just in Johannesburg, which is where I live, but literally in all the countries. There is so much development, and it is not only starving children, and it is not only war and famine and floods. We actually have an amazing continent, and I think it is very important that the rest of the world sees that, and not just through the eyes of the news,
Mm-hmm.
because the news inherently only shows negative things. So that's, I like this podcast, but there are many others. So spend some time, look at Africa, and see it through our eyes. We live here, we are happy here, and it's amazing.
Wow.
And come and visit us. Everybody that's listening to this, come to Africa. It's really amazing. It's not scary. It's
once
amazing.
we are allowed to travel again.
Absolutely.
Actually, a question around that: how is the coronavirus affecting Africa?
It is really quite devastating.
Yeah?
Really devastating. So even though we have a lot of vaccines available,
okay,
there is a huge hesitancy, because traditionally anything coming from the West has been seen as maybe not good for Africa.
Okay.
And there are so many people that are really scared to take it.
Oh.
So it's sad in a way. So generally across the continent, the vaccine uptake is not great. And of course, in South Africa alone, we're going into the fourth wave. In Mauritius, for example, they've just reopened for tourists, but the COVID situation is very dire there. And in many other African countries. But amazingly enough, because we are used to managing disease and pandemic, for example, if you think about Ebola, or if you think about cholera, many countries, specifically in West Africa, were not affected as badly. Okay. Because we are quite used to not shaking hands, doing social distancing. Just because of the pandemic, previous pandemics, and because the governments generally know how to deal with it, we haven't had as many deaths, and we haven't had quite as severe an infection rate as you've had in Europe and in America.
Oh wow, that's good to hear. Good to end with positive. Because I think we heard a whole lot from you and from open source in Africa and how Africa is doing. So I want to thank you very much, Karien. It's really great to have you as a guest and to tell us all about the topics that are close to your heart. Always when I meet you, it used to be sometimes physically all around the globe, or nowadays online in web meetings. Always you are able to touch my heart. So thank you very much for that. And let's go back to Scatterlings of Africa, and look forward to meet you one day somewhere on this planet again. Thank you very much, Karin.
Thank you so much. Go well. Stay safe.
Thanks everyone for watching. Please like, subscribe, the whole thing. Have a good weekend. Bye bye.